Good morning to everyone. The Smart City is waking up. Thank you for being here early. I hope some more people that are arriving late, they are in traffic jams, they will join us during the event. So today we are organizing a session based on the advancements that we are doing in the Galileo for Mobility project. We'll also have some projects that are linked to Galileo for Mobility that will also show us how they are contributing with other technology blocks to the deployment of MaaS. So first, I will introduce the project very briefly. Then we will call the speakers, and they will further tell us about what they are doing. And then we'll have a roundtable about technology around MaaS. Millor, sí. Okay, so first a few words about my company. Pildolabs is an engineering company which has been pioneering the introduction of satellite navigation in the air traffic management sector, mostly targeting rotorcrafts, but now drones. This is why a few years ago we started working also in urban mobility. We see a clear match here with drones being now conceived for urban navigation as well, for urban mobility services, either are air urban taxis and also distribution of parcels for logistics. So about the project is, first of all, it's important to say we are not working actually on Galileo technology itself. The system is already in place. There are many companies that have developed basic receiver technology offering already this Galileo signal to the services. What we are doing is integrating it into innovative mobility services, mostly shared mobility services and mobility as a service. It's a demonstration project. What I will present is mostly about pilots and demonstrations. So about the consortium, and you will have some of them speaking today. We are the technology partners, Pildolabs and Sensefields. Then we have some partners responsible of pilots, so AMB, the Metropolitan Region of Barcelona, RAC, Clem, which should be here with us, and I don't see him, which is, well, I hope he will come later on. But they are running a pilot in Paris on car sharing, and Taxiway, which is a taxi association in Thessaloniki. And then we have other partners supporting the dissemination and research on the project, which are third, Transport Systems Catapult from UK, Crea Futur from Barcelona, and UITP, the International Association of Public Transport. So a few words about Galileo. As you know, this is the European satellite navigation system. People tend to think it's a competition to GPS. Actually, it is not. It's fully compatible with GPS, the American system. The idea is that both systems, together with the Russian, the Chinese, they operate together, so the receivers get signals from all of them and get more satellites, so better quality of signal. Normally in cities, where these kind of services we'll talk about today, they are operating in narrow streets or difficult places for satellite navigation signals, which are traveling 24,000 kilometers through the space, that they reach the receiver with very low power, and they get blocked by buildings. This is why you have probably experienced that in urban environments. Sometimes we don't get accurate positioning. So with Galileo, more satellites in view, it's more likely that we will have this better accuracy, availability of satellite navigation signals. We've heard about Galileo for several years, and mostly linked to problems, delays, and let's say political discussion. Now the service is fully operational. You can use it, and actually through the pilots we'll experience for the first time actually a good comparison of using Galileo with GPS compared to only using GPS. So a few words about the pilots. They are running in 3 different cities, in Barcelona, Paris, and Thessaloniki. So let me start with a pilot in Thessaloniki, which is a shared taxi service. The idea is to bring commuters together into one single vehicle to travel inside the city for commuting. They pick up everyone at their home. They bring it to the major hubs in the city center so you can share the taxi cost. It's a price between public transport and taxi. So the idea is to offer a better alternative to people living in the suburbs of Thessaloniki, which are normally traveling by car. Public transport very hardly will offer a reliable and efficient solution to these people, commuters. So thanks to this service, we are avoiding car trips, which you can see they are the majority in these suburbs. The pilot has been running already for 5 months with 100 taxi drivers participating in the pilot. Of course, all the 100 vehicles are not offering the service all the time. The idea is that any of these drivers can pick up one of the commuters during the morning and when they leave home. Normally there is a pre-booked time. This also for regulatory issues, but thanks to the application they can change slightly the pickup point and also the time. So the algorithm is kind of recomputing real time the route and the pickup of each of them. We'll have a video on that. Then second one is the one in Paris, which is offering a last mile solution in a big technology and research park in the outside of Paris. I hope Adrian will join us later and will present it in detail, otherwise I will do so. And then we have 3 of them in Barcelona. One of them is on bus on demand, so public transport offered by administration, but instead of offering a regular trajectory and timing and schedule, it's changing according to the demand. This is conceived for low demand areas outside the core city center. Then the MaaS aggregator, city trips that Martí will present later on. And then we are also running a pilot with an autonomous shuttle. So a few more words about the bus on demand service from AMB. This will be run in Cervelló, which as you can see is close to Barcelona but in a suburban area with low demand. There is a regular line now offering the service, which is not efficient enough to offer all the potential that could be offered if we are able to really get closer to the demand. Through a regular line, it's very difficult to reach all the areas. This would take too long expeditions. So thanks to the on-demand, users book in advance their desired time of departure, their pickup points, their destinations, and we are building the route real time to make it more efficient and capture more demand. The objective is not to make it cheaper, let's say, or more cost efficient for the administration. At the end, they are paying the bus, they are covering the cost of the driver. It's the same cost as a regular line, but we are getting closer to demand, so we expect to increase the number of users. So a bit about the technology. This will run in 2 vehicles, where the payment system will be the integrated, let's say the normal ticket for the integrated transport in metropolitan region and the same price. We'll have the navigation unit that will provide the location, and this will be connected to the tablet for the driver that will see real time, which is the expedition he needs to do. All this coordinated with a back office that is computing the routes, but also is facilitating the operation on the back office also for customer service. It will be possible also to book the service by telephone, and the operators from AMB will introduce through their back office new reservations. This is also a way to involve users that are not used to using mobile apps so that they can also benefit from this service. So it's a bit of the example of what we are doing. There is the user app for booking. There is also a driver app getting all the information about the expedition he needs to do, and the back office to manage all this. This has been developed by Pildolabs and is being already tested in 2 lines in Girona as well, and raising interest. So it seems that bus on-demand services, little by little, are getting introduced to public transport in many places thanks to digitalization. A few words about the autonomous shuttle service that will be operated by Crea Futur. This will take place in Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona during first half of 2020. We are now finalizing the discussions with the vehicle providers and the traffic authorities. This will be the first pilot operating in real traffic. So the shuttle will be sharing space with normal cars. This will be a challenge. Okay, we have Adrian joining finally. And we hope it will be a milestone for Barcelona being able to test these services. A few words before starting with the round panel on what's going on the project. We'll have many pilots that will take place in the following months. So it's important for you to know that we'll host the final event in Barcelona on 22nd of April. We'll organize a really nice event. So I hope to have you there and get some more results. So far we introduced what we're going to do or we are doing. By then we'll have results. And then also letting you know that we are opening a small-scale pilot call so that public transport operators or even private operators interested in the technology, they can apply for additional funding to test the technology and cover their resources involved with this testing for only 1 month duration, so short scale, but still a way to taste what we have done. All this information is in our website if you are interested. And well, I think that's all on my side. Now we will get to know some more about the pilots with the speakers invited. I invite them to join the seats. On the meantime, we'll watch the video from Thessaloniki. Martín. Dani. Ya puedo.
Δεν χρειάζεται να ψάχνω για χώρο στάθμευσης πια. Εξοικονομώ τόσο χρόνο και φτάνω κάθε μέρα στη δουλειά στην ώρα μου.
Χρησιμοποιώντας την εφαρμογή GALILEO for Mobility, μπορώ να δω πότε ακριβώς φτάνει το ταξί μου, αλλά και να παρακολουθήσω τη διαδρομή σε πραγματικό χρόνο.
Όσο περισσότεροι επιλέγουν αυτόν τον τρόπο μετακίνησης, τόσο λιγότερα αυτοκίνητα υπάρχουν στους δρόμους της πόλης.
Okay, so I will introduce the speakers one by one and ask them to introduce themselves, what they are doing, and also I will ask them a questions, and later on we'll have a discussion with them. So let me start with Adrian Lancelot from CLEM. They are responsible for the pilot in Paris in the project. Adrian, welcome. Can you tell us a bit about CLEM and the pilot you are running in Paris?
Yeah, thank you. Hi everyone. So I'm from CLEM. CLEM is a French electric mobility operator. Our specialty is electric car sharing. So what we do is we give local authorities, public local authorities, most of the time, the tools to develop their own mobility services, their own car sharing scheme that really fits the needs of that they have identified in their population. So the project we are developing in the G4M consortium is basically a dual mobility project where we have car sharing linked with electric bike sharing as well. So the idea is to test if we perceive if we can improve the data that we get by using GPS plus Galileo enabled GPS plus Galileo enabled trackers rather than just GPS to locate our vehicles. So we are doing a project on the eastern suburbs, in the eastern suburbs of Paris, with 11 vehicles that are tracked with 2 different trackers, one that does only GPS, so we get only the GPS points, one that does GPS plus Galileo. And we also put in place 20 electric bikes that will be used with the same sort of chipset, GPS plus Galileo.
Thank you. Can you tell us about the location of the pilot?
Yes, the pilot is in a place called MaaS. You may have heard of it because of Disneyland. So it's in the really east, a bit far eastern suburbs of Paris. So it would be about 30 minutes by car to Paris, and the challenge there is not really going to Paris, it's rather going around to closer suburbs, because usually in Paris when you want to do that you have to go all the way to Paris, then take another train to go to the other suburb you want to go, and that's where car sharing and bike sharing actually may help earn a lot of time, because you make the distances much shorter.
Thank you, Adrian. So let's now move to Martí Massot from RAC. He's managing the pilot on mobility as a service. Martí, can you explain us on city trips and what you're doing in the project?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting us to be present on this talk. My name is Martí and I work at the RACC. RACC is the biggest mobility club in Spain with almost 1 million of members. In this context, we launch a mobility as a service aggregator app called City Trips that already has 60,000 of users, that gathers all the mobility offer present in the big cities of Spain, from public transport to motor, car, bike sharing, and also all the offer related to bikes, like bike lanes and parking. Our main proposition value to the user is to offer a door-to-door multimodal experience, as seamless as possible. In this sense, we have introduced a multimodal journey planner in the app, and we have realized that when it comes to multimodality, you need to really take care about the transition legs, about when the user changes modes. So in the sense, in the context of the Galileo for Mobility project, in the pilot, we wanted to test the improvements of Galileo, so accuracy and a fastest acquisition signal in this specific field, in this specific phase, that is the transition. So in the first phase of the project, we recruited 15 users that were already using multimodal ways of city trips, and we're using non-enabled Galileo chipsets. we tracked them during 1 month and a half using surveys and using also voice message feedback. We gave to them in the middle of the project a Galileo enabled smartphone with also dual frequency that maybe after you can explain exactly what is, but basically it's a feature that enhance the signal acquisition, and on the second part of the project we tracked them. So basically we compared with non-Galileo and with Galileo, and actually the results were quite good. From a scale from 1 to 5, there was an improvement of 1 point regarding the user perception of signal acquisition and accuracy. So just as a conclusion, what we feel is that you can have the best journey planner on the world, but if you cannot rely on the geolocation that the smartphone is giving to you, you cannot really take advantage of the full potential of the journey planner that you have developed. So that would be more or less all.
Thank you, Martí. Of course, you'll have time later on to ask questions if you want. So let me now move to Josep Laborda, Managing Partner at Factual, that will introduce a new project going on. Now, let's say Galileo for Mobility is reaching the end. We opened this small-scale pilot, but it's really short time. But if you are interested in running projects with Galileo, there's a new tool, which is Ariadna, and Josep will tell us about.
Thank you, Martí. Good morning. My name is Josep Laborda, and I'm happy to be here today. I'm managing partner at Factual. Factual is an innovation consultancy focused in mobility. And in this project, I am very proud today to be able to present the Ariadna project, which, by the way, takes the name of my elder daughter. I know some of you already know that. It's a nice fact. We have this is a kind of continuation, in a way, of Galileo for Mobility project, meaning that Galileo for Mobility, as you have learned minutes before, explained by Martí, has run some pilots where the benefits of Galileo positioning can implement benefits in some urban mobility scenarios, in some pilots and cases and so on. The Ariadna project aims at educating stakeholders, decision makers, public transport operators, public transport authorities, providers of technology involved in this kind of pilots to further implement and deploy Galileo in the wider urban mobility arena. Starting with the public transport, because we believe the public transport is one of the main applications in urban mobility. That's pretty obvious. And we consider public transport kind of an entry point to the wider ITS sector. So the goal of this project, EC-funded project that is about to start, will start in January next year, tentatively, where we have, let me say, a very well-balanced consortium with the UITP, the best partner we could ever have representing public transport worldwide. Then we have the UPC, and I see some guys from the UPC here today with us. We have Pildo, providers of technology, as you know. And then we have Auxilia, which is an SME from France who will help us engage SMEs, startups in this sector. And as I say, this is about raising awareness, building the capacities of the decision makers so that what has been piloted in Galileo for Mobility is further implemented worldwide, not only in Europe, but in other continents, in America, in Asia, in Africa as well. So that is the commitment of this project. It's a coordination and support action, and I'm happy to take questions if you may have about the ambition of this project.
Thank you, Josep. There are opportunities in Ariadna for both transport operator and solution providers, so if you have any question how to get involved, please contact Josep after the session. So now I will move to Stefano Persi, CEO of Mosaic Factor and coordinator of IMOVE project. It's a link project to Galileo for Mobility. So Stefano, can you tell us something about?
Thanks, Marty. No, actually coordinator, well, let's say I'm helping the coordinator. So you're not so wrong. So I'm the CEO of Mosaic Factor. We are here at the stand of AMB if you want to come and see us. Mosaic Factor, what we focus on is the data-driven innovation, big data, but especially knowing the user and see how the data can help us in mobility. In IMOVE, we have 5 cities, so is under transport call. What we focus in IMOVE is like 3 different lines, so business models, understanding different business models that can suit the need of the different public and private operators. Is mainly cases where we have a combination of public and private and somebody offer the whole combination to the final user. So there's a certain complexity. Then we have some software enablers. So each city, each site have their own MaaS platform, but we offer some additional elements that they can add as a plugin to the platform. And then finally we have a focus on data. On data, that is our specialty, so obviously we have a key role there. And we see that many cities, they have already many datas, but they're not using them properly. So first we try to see what to do with what they have already, and then how to help them visualizing how the MaaS can best fit the user, and then looking at what the MaaS is providing and enhancing what they're already doing. The focus for me on iMove, briefly, I will say is one of the strong points is the 5 sites. We have Madrid, Manchester, Turin, Berlin, and Gothenburg, and the diversity of the sites. So we didn't choose a unique approach. In some sites it's more the private, like in Berlin, that is taking a leading role. Competing also now, as we know, there is a public that is putting out an app, so it's a bit complex the situation. Then we have Madrid, where the city is taking a leading role. Manchester, where they have a complexity of the public transport, and we have overall diversity. So seeing which approach suits the best. Gothenburg, I let the few proposing solution and see how they operate. They don't take a leading role, and see how to do, because I think in MaaS now it's time to learn and not yet to deploy big, but to learn and see how to move next.
Thank you, Stefano. So let me now, before the discussion, to move to Daniel Serra, who is Innovation Hub Manager at EIT. Daniel, can you tell us a bit about EIT and how it can help these new solutions to scale up?
First, thank you for the invitation. Also, I am part of the advisory group of the GALILEO for Mobility, and I have been following this very interesting project. The IT urban mobility that was presented on Tuesday with here in the same place with a little more people here on the Agora. But I think this is one of the latest European initiatives for mobility. We are part of the EIT, and we have right now 85 partners, and we have 5 innovation hubs across Europe. The one I'm leading is here in Barcelona, and also the headquarters are in Barcelona. We are also very interested to engage very active stakeholders on mobility. Some of these stakeholders are already in your project, and our aim is just to try to scale up this project in different cities. We already have 21 cities, very innovative cities in Europe, like Amsterdam, Barcelona, Copenhagen, Munich, Istanbul. We have these cities. The cities are helping us to define the challenge, and together with the cities, we improve the mobility in the cities, just looking for more sustainable, safety, digital mobility in our cities. And we are in the first year, but we want that initiative like Galileo that are promoting a standardization of digitalization and the new satellite system. We want to help just to deploy these solutions in Europe. And we are very happy to collaborate with new initiatives like Ariadna, okay, in the future, because I think we can support you, and also you can support us in order to transform the mobility in Europe in the next years.
Thank you, Daniel. So now I will start with some questions, and then we'll open the floor to the audience. So let me start with a question related to satellite navigation, to the positioning information. As you know, now it's possible to get massive data on geolocation of vehicles and users to improve urban mobility. How do you see the potential of sharing this data of different operators into one, let's say, aggregated platform so that this information is available to public authorities? How do you think we can use all this data, and which steps should we take to make it happen?
Okay, I start answering to this. I think the concept of data sharing is a very important one in MaaS and very complex. Obviously, the potential is there, the need is there. To have a real MaaS functioning, we need to share the data, and the positioning is very crucial. Obviously, some data are more sensitive than others, so we cannot see every user what is doing. We need to be very careful, respecting GDPR, and this is basic. But still, doing this, we can do a lot of things. I think the major concern is one has to act as the kind of seller, so as the knowledge, the contact with the user, and the rest of operators and basically all the parties involved need to have something in exchange. So for me, that's why I say sharing, because I have something that is mine, I used to have it, I know the user, it's important for my business. If we want to have this, we need to have a tight collaboration, we have to have a definition together, and we have to see, it's not about selling and what money, but it's like what I want to get, and how can we do this in the benefit of everybody. In the public is complex, when we add the private is even more, so this I think is the line to work, and we have to work if we want to have a successful market.
Regarding what you commented, in our own experience, when you need to develop a MaaS, and you need to share data, that's for sure. But when it comes to share data, the most daunting challenge is not the technical one. It's not the problem of developing an API, but is how to reach agreement between the different partners, how to reach data principles, data sharing, and especially data with public transport operators. So in this sense, for example, we envisage initiative like the EIT, urban mobility, where the place you can build feasible public-private partnership in order to foster the MaaS uptake.
May I add to this hot topic on data? I think that data definitely is a building block of any mobility as a service platform you can imagine of. Complete data, I mean, data is still in silos today. And this is, of course, a challenge that needs to be overcome by societies willing to implement better, more efficient mobility. Having a complete overview of mobility driven by data, actual data of how mobility is ordinating in a city, for example, including public transport and private services, is key to planning better mobility in our cities. And in my opinion, I believe that this building block should be somehow, and at least this is the ambition, coordinated or managed by public authorities, giving fair access to other players willing to access this data to implement their own services, so that there are not that silos that still occur in this space. So yeah, that's my view.
I think that this information, especially for private companies and also for the public operators, this information should be shared. Because I was the other day, I had the opportunity to have been in a panel discussion with Cultura, and they show, they saw a visualization of all the, usage of Cultura in Barcelona. And it was amazing. I think for them it's very useful because they can improve the operations of their business model. But I think also for the public authorities, the way these electrical motorbikes are moving in the city of Barcelona, it provides very useful information to design how will be the future cities And this is this information that already all the users are creating. I think it's very useful and should be shared, and also should be used to design what will be the cities of the future. And for that reason, I think this information at the end should be shared. Should be completely anonymous, because I think it's property of the users. And also the public authorities, they should also to share this information with other operators.
Okay.
I would just like to add a point that you mentioned shortly. It's that if we share the data, and we have to share the data, we are, of course, all aware of that. We all agree on that. The more you share the data, the more you have to protect the data as well. Because the data, as you said, is user data. And we're talking about geolocation, we're talking about mobility. So that's very personal data, which means that if it's going to be accessible, it needs to be even more protected where it is stored. It is an issue that needs to be considered as well.
Actually, Adrian, as operator, are you sharing already some of your business data with the public authorities in Paris?
Yeah, we always share data with our clients. We send them data continuously. I would say all of the navigational data, there is some that we keep, but it's rather to respect the RGPD rather than to keep it to ourselves and exploit it on our own. There's really no data that we exploit that we don't make available to our partners. But then there's another question, which would be, do you share data with anyone? No, we share data only with our client, our partner, who contracts, who gives us the contract to come and operate the service. We don't, at the moment at least, we don't send the data in a random database somewhere to be used by anyone.
Okay, so I have a few more questions, but I think we are running short of time, and it's time maybe for the audience if you have any question. No. On the meantime, I have another question for you, which is about autonomous driving. We are having a first pilot on real traffic in Catalonia. I would like to know your opinion how quick this transition to autonomous vehicles can be. There are people talking about a few years' time. There are people talking about 20, 30 years to get massive deployment of autonomous vehicle. What's your point of view on that?
I will not share my. I think that is going to take time. It's going to be a progressive transition towards autonomous driving. For sure, this is not going to happen overnight, and it's going to be restricted to some areas in the city because it is complicated and it needs a lot of regulation and better technology, and there are a lot of concerns and challenges that still need to be overcome. But I mean, this question comes very timely because we, as Factual, are organizing a course specifically on this topic, on the challenges that all the players and the stakeholders taking decisions and driving roadmaps towards autonomous driving in cities have. So that's the reason why we have organized the course, and I'm happy to brief you later on. It will be early next year in February, and we will bring some experts to the discussion in a 3 days course in Barcelona, just for you to know.
Just to give my own very personal opinion on this, and I know many people would disagree, I would say that the implementation will be very gradual as well. I can imagine that there would be a first step where autonomous vehicle would be limited to roads that are reserved to autonomous vehicles, and that you could actually have some very clever uses of that sort of limitations as well. I imagine in the sector of car sharing, if you had a car that you could use to go anywhere, and then it could use a separate road to go back to its origin and still serve sort of the same purpose, so that you're always answering demand where there is demand, rather than having the car limited in its possibilities of trips, because it's at the destination and not at the point where there is demand. I think that would be that would already be a good first step forward, and this, I think, should not be too far in the future, but wide complete deployment is maybe a bit farther.
I think we may have, well, I'm not sure when everybody will have an autonomous vehicles, and I was in automotive. I hope it will be when everything will be tested very well, but I think it will be faster than we think. And we already have these lanes the colleague from Clem is referring to in certain cases, like in the highways. Abertis Autopistas here, they're working a project, and many others, like on how to have mixed use in the highway and reserve most of the time some lanes for autonomous vehicles. So I think this is a way to start. And I think in general, what I expect is to have a first fleets. So now we have the other day I was with Michael Peyot from TMB. He was saying they have the first case of autonomous vehicle for a long time. They have the metro moving autonomously. It is in a reserve lane, like you say. I think the next will be some autonomous buses in the city or outside the city, and then the gradual use of the user.
I don't have a bet on when it will fully arrive. I agree that firstly there will be through fleet rather than final user. Just regarding users, I think that the good thing about autonomous is it can enhance mobility as a service, since it can enhance multimodality. As Adrian commented, this kind of autonomous service, autonomous vehicle services makes optimize, let's say, the distribution of the trips. So I see that, yes, autonomous vehicles, the potential it has is to enhance multimodality, and then I see them as a big point.
Just to finalize, I think it will come. In the IT, we have some projects just working on that. We will try to speed up, but I think it will come in a different approach. How we already see the autonomous driving. Okay, I think it will come with a specific autonomous vehicles, a small special usage, last mile solutions, for example, for delivery, small buses, and we will see a lot of new vehicles in our cities that I think at the end will help the cities to be more sustainable, you know. And that's something that right now I think we need to start to imagine how the cities will be and what kind of devices. But for sure, these devices in some cases will be completely autonomous.
Okay, we would still have 2 minutes if there's a quick question or comment. No, so I'd like to thank all of you for being here this morning, and all the panelists. Big applause for them.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.